What's good, y'all? It's your boy Shane G. We're back with another episode of Politics as usual, right here on the Ethos Media Network. Make sure you like, you share, you subscribe for all the latest content. Bar exam dropping every Monday. OTI returning, dropping every Wednesday. Politics as usual, most weekends. What I would like to discuss today, obviously, is the gentleman that we have on our screen right here. This is Joe Rogan. Now, I am a very big Joe Rogan fan. Let me get that out of the way. Um, I think that his takes are a lot more nuanced than people like to actually give him credit for. I think that he speaks to a lot of different people. He speaks to, Republicans, conservatives, left wingers, Democrats, and everything basically in between, right? He talks to whoever. And I have seen him challenge people, when he disagrees with them, Stephen Crowder, that was a big one. Candace Owens, that was a big one. Um, so it's not that because a lot of the criticism that he gets is that he'll have, um, problematic people on his podcast, but he doesn't challenge them or, he's platforming them or whatever. So, um, I just wanted to point out, that he does actually, challenge people when he feels strongly about an argument. Otherwise, he's going to hear people out and listen to their perspective, which is what conversation is supposed to be, right? So, I say all that to say there are some things, although I'm a big Joe Rogan fan, I love his comedy. I watch his podcast pretty regularly. Um, and even the other guy who is on the show with him, fellow comedian Tom Segura, who I'm also a huge fan of. I love their work, so I just want to make that clear. This is not a Joe Rogan, Tom Segura slander hit piece, nothing like that. This is just a legit disagreement that I have with a subject that they brought up. Last time Tom was on his podcast, so I just wanted to speak on it because I feel that he's simplifying things and specifically we're talking about police. Um, I feel like he's simplifying things without necessarily knowing the reality behind what he's actually saying. So that's what I want to speak to today. And you know me, I brought the numbers, I brought the stats. So without further ado, let's hear what Joe Rogan and Tom Segura have to say about police in America and what we can do to, I guess, strengthen the relationship between citizens and the police.
Imagine being a cop, and every time you pull someone over,
Yeah.
we've all seen those videos of cops getting shot.
Oh yeah.
We've all seen those
Yeah.
videos
Yeah.
of cops pulling people over, and then the windows explode and people fire on them. We've all seen those. They've seen them too. They know people who've been shot.
Yeah.
They have no idea who you are. They have no idea what's going on.
No.
So when they come up to that car, they are at a heightened state. They
Yeah.
have to be. They are literally, to a criminal, they're the professional enemy.
Yeah.
Their job is to be the enemy of the criminal.
Yeah.
It's a fucking crazy position to be in society, and we don't treat it with enough respect.
Yeah.
And when the consequence, when it goes badly, all we think about is that officer. That's a representative of all police officers. But it's not true.
It's true. I think a lot of people too. It's kind of hard. Like a lot of people.
So just to address that point really quickly, he says that when one officer does something bad, that people paint a broad brush and say that that's how all police are. That's not necessarily true. Do I think some people do that? Yes. But what I think the actual argument is not necessarily that all police behave this way. It's more that when police see bad apples and they know of people who are doing illegal things, speaking of other police officers, of course, using too much force, planting drugs on people, planting guns on people, framing people. These are all things that we know happen. Um, I think the argument is that when police who don't engage in those type of activities see it, they don't police themselves. That's where the whole no snitching thing comes from. Like as far as even in the streets, like when you gang banging or you in the mob or, any sort of illegal organized group, um, that's where the no snitching thing comes from. We're all on the same side here. Even if we're enemies, even if we got beef or whatever, we're on this side of the fence. So we completely operate on this side of the fence and we don't involve the other side, which is police. Police have that same rule. They don't tell on each other. So who polices the police is the question. If the authority figures who deserve all this respect and deserve, all this essentially leeway given to them, who polices them when they do wrong? Because we know what really happens. We know that they just get shuffled to other departments and things like that. And they get to usually keep their job, or they get suspended with pay, shit like that. And the worst consequences that typically happen to these police are they're not allowed to be cops anymore. That's the worst that happens. They very rarely go to jail. There are times that they go to jail, but not. It doesn't equate the same way when a police officer does dirt. Most of the time he's protected. So that's the issue. It's not that all police behave the same way. It's that essentially all police are okay with the ones who are doing the bullshit. That's what makes them all look bad. So I just wanted to address that point really quick.
Well, they go into getting pulled over with a heightened sense of emotion themselves.
Sure.
Which, if you are that person getting pulled over for whatever you got pulled over for, if that's your mentality in that moment, you are actually going to escalate things. You are, as the person getting
100%.
Okay. Now, my issue with this is I'm not a police officer. I'm a regular citizen. The police officer is the one who we're trusting with the authority to be able to handle the situation. So, by saying that because maybe I'm nervous because I got pulled over, especially in my situation, look at me, you know what I'm saying? Black tats, you feel me? So, the glasses might help on some days, but I don't always wear the glasses. So, yeah, getting pulled over might make me more anxious and more even irritable or, just uncomfortable. And if that's the case, it should be the police officer's job to de escalate the situation if he knows he's not going to do anything to me. You see what I'm saying? If his intention is not to shoot me or cause me any harm, then he should be trying to calm me down so that way I don't feel this heightened sense of anxiety or, whatever other word you want to use. So the responsibility from what Tom said is on the citizen to de-escalate the situation because the cop is going to walk up nervous. He's going to go on to say this. The cop walks up nervous already. He's already clutching his pistol. So it's on you basically to make sure that the situation doesn't escalate. I totally disagree. I think you're flip-flopping the responsibility. And I think that responsibility is actually on the cop.
And it does take an effort to go, okay, this guy, like you said, he's walking up here in a heightened state.
Yeah.
I can diffuse things. I can diffuse them.
Yes.
By how I conduct this.
Yes.
But some people, first you have the people that are like the legal scholars who want to lecture the police officer on his rights. Yeah, you can do that, man. Right. Or there's I have friends who are like, I hate cops. Cops are all pigs, and I've watched them speak to police officers in a way where I'm like, Jesus Christ, man. Yeah. It's so disrespectful.
So stupid.
I go, yeah, but you are making this worse.
Right.
Now, where I will agree with him is that I do know people like this as well. I know people who, like you said, the self-proclaimed legal scholars who think they know all the laws, or, people who just have this sense of, well, it's just a cop. If I'm not breaking any laws, I can talk to him any kind of way I want to. I know people like this for sure. So, I definitely understand where he's coming from in this sense, where it's like, yo, calm down. You're going to make this hot for everybody. But why do we feel like that? Why do we feel like we can't talk to another human being as long as we're not saying anything illegal, making threats, anything like that? Why shouldn't we be? I can do that to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can disrespect each other and call each other out our names and all of that all day, but the second one of us puts hands on the other one, that becomes assault. You know what I'm saying? And if we continue to beat, then it's assault and battery. You feel me? So the rules are completely different for us than they are for people in uniform. That's the issue. And again, the all cops are pigs thing, that mostly comes from what I said originally. The good cops never stop the bad ones from doing bad stuff. And when they know about the bad stuff, they don't report it. They don't, they're no snitching. You know what I'm saying? That's the police code. So that's the issue. That's why they get the all cops are pigs and all. It's just the same thing that, unfortunately, I heard Joe Rogan doing when he was talking about Black Lives Matter protests. He was talking about them as if they were all riots. Clearly, they weren't. I've been to multiple Black Lives Matter rallies here in Phoenix, and none of them turned violent. So to pretend like the majority of them sparked violence is wrong. But you're very pro police, Joe Rogan, so it's like that fits your narrative in a way where it's like, okay, well, the police wouldn't be the ones to start all this because they're the good guys, so it had to have been the unruly Black Lives Matter protesters. That's the assumption there. You know what I mean? He doesn't say that in this video, but if you watch enough Joe Rogan, then you've heard him speak about the riots. He calls them riots flat out, didn't call them protests. So that's kind of the same thing when we blanket all cops are pigs. It's sort of the same thing that you're doing when you say all the Black Lives Matter protests were riots. Now, you haven't explicitly said all of them were, but it's just in the way that you speak about them. You speak about them as if they were all riots. So that's the issue there. So although I agree with Tom Segura's point ultimately when he says you shouldn't walk in and try to escalate the situation with the cop, that's not going to help. Where I disagree is I don't think it's on you to de-escalate it. It's on the cop. That's whose responsibility it actually is to de-escalate, protect and serve, right?
Right, that's a human being.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
you
when
gotta
you
fucking
interact
chill a
with
little
them,
bit. You don't have to.
you don't
like,
know them.
Yeah, you don't have to get on your knees.
Right.
But just like he's doing his thing. Just like let's try to smooth this thing out. Let's not try to make it worse.
Let's try to make it better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If I ever have an interaction with a cop, it's always, "How you doing, sir?
Yeah.
What's happening, brother? Everything
Yeah.
good?"
Yeah,
I want it smooth and easy.
Completely. Yeah.
Yeah, and just that whole that's just what I fucking those kind of generalizations. All cops are pigs. Like, fuck off.
No, it's not good.
Fuck off.
It's not
That's
good.
I don't like those generalizations with anything. Women are stupid. Fuck off. Fuck off. Fuck off.
No,
It's just annoying.
No, you're
that
like
Now, the issue that what he's saying here is when you say all women are stupid, you know, not having a gender debate here, but just with the traditional understanding of men and women, women are born women. They don't choose to be women. They are women. So to compare that to a police officer who cannot be a police officer at minimum until he's 18. I'm sure it's probably older than that in most areas, but maybe 18 because you're an adult then. You're making a conscious decision to be a part of a group at that point. So it's not the same thing as saying all women are stupid or all black people are X or all Asians are Y or all Muslims are Z. It's not the same thing because religion, a lot of times you're born into it. And your gender, for the most part, for most people, we're born as we're just born this way. You know what I'm saying? Like I was born, with the ability to grow facial hair. I have, what I'm saying, male genitalia. So it's like I'm a dude. Like, and I don't have any sort of like dysphoria about that. Like I'm a man. I'm a male. Like, and that's what it is. You know what I mean? I was born this way. I could change it, I guess. Like, you know what I'm saying? But that's not anything that, is really on my heart like that. Like it would be for somebody else who, goes through, whatever type of changes happen in, when it comes to gender, right? So my point in saying that is police choose to be police. The other categories that most people stereotype don't choose to be in those categories. So that's my overall point there. If you choose to be a part of something, I can, you know, all NBA players are athletic. Yeah, that would be a fact. You know what I'm saying? That's not saying all black people are athletic. That's not saying all Europeans are athletic. That's saying all NBA players are athletic. That would be a generalization because it's all one particular group that you're talking about. So again, it's like, what are you generalizing? You know, are you generalizing a group that people choose to participate in? Are you choosing, or are you, talking about a group that people are born into? You know, things like that. So that's my only argument against that. But for the most part, I actually do agree with it. I don't like generalizing groups of people, but mine is more so based on arbitrary things that they can't help. You can help being a cop. You choose that. So
Most women are stupid, but no. But if you go into those,
anything,
yeah, like that, you're gonna
any interaction with the fucking with a retail worker, a fucking auto mechanic, anything, any interaction.
And sometimes I think if this comes with age, sometimes you do meet a real piece of shit.
Oh yeah,
like it can be a police officer, it can be the mechanic, it can be
car salesman,
the cars. Oh fuck, car salesman, flight attendant.
Yeah,
and I would say I call it take the bait more, right? Feel the rage, become like escalate things.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I'd be like, I mean, I've said some regrettable things to people, but I mean, like, I think with age now, one of the things that happens is you go like, I think this person sucks, and internally, and I go, I'm just like, I had a flight where
I just want to stop it there. Now, again, just slight issue. The issue I have with that is real retail workers, auto mechanics, the other professions that he named, uh, flight attendants. They don't have the authority, the legal authority, to pull out a gun and kill you if they feel uncomfortable. Because that's really all it takes for a cop to be able to, oh, my life was threatened. How? You know what I mean? Did he pull out a gun on you? Did he just run away from you? You know what I'm saying? We've seen those videos. Joe talks about the videos of like cops being killed that we've all seen and all of that. Well, how many more of the opposite have you seen? And that's because police, and this is to steal a phrase from Jimmy Dore, police have a monopoly on violence. They're the only people in the United States who are allowed to use deadly force whenever they feel necessary. There's not really a standard across the board as what constitutes the need for deadly force. It's just you feel threatened, and anything can make somebody feel threatened. So it's like, again, bad example. Like police is a very unique occupation. It's not the same as just being a McDonald's worker. You know what I mean? They are not allowed to legally pull out a gun and kill you if something goes wrong in your interaction, unless you're causing clear physical violence or a threat of some kind to them, which others can verify and video can verify and all of these different things. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's a different thing. Law enforcement is a totally different occupation than really anything else that you can think of. So again, I don't like these examples that they're using, but let's get into the nitty gritty of what they're actually talking about. So I want to pull up these stats, and let's blow this up here. Nope. Okay, here we go. This is the number of people shot to death by the police in the United States from the years 2017 to 2023. Let me pull out my calculator for this one because I want to show you guys the true difference and why what Joe Rogan said is sort of unreasonable. When it comes to, well, they're walking up, they don't know what you got in the car, and they have a heightened sense of, all of that stuff. Like, let me show you why that shouldn't be the case. So in 2017, and I'm not even going to break it down by race. You can look at those numbers yourself, but I'm talking about overall. I don't even want to break it down by race. I'm talking about overall. So that way nobody can say, like this is everybody. So in 2017, 981 people were shot to death by the police. In 2018, 983 people were shot to death by the police. Notice the number going up. In 2019, 999 people were shot and killed by police. In 2020, 1,020 people were shot and killed by the police. In 2021, 1,048 people were shot and killed by police. In 2022, 1,097 people were shot and killed by police. Okay. And then we're at 424 for the year of 2023. I'm not going to use 2023. This is as of June 2023. So I'm not going to use June, or I'm sorry, I'm not going to use 2023. I'm going to stick with 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. What is the total amount of deaths in that 6-year period? 6,128 people. Okay? And the number goes up every year. Okay. Now, let's look year by year to see how many police were shot and killed by citizens every year. In 2017, now we have to scroll down a little bit because this is all police deaths in the year. All. Gunfire, 45. That's for 2017. So compare that to the 981 people who got shot and killed by the police in 2017. 981 citizens. Gunfire, 45. Okay, let's move on. 2018. Gunfire, 52. And gunfire inadvertent, 1. That sounds to me like a cop shot another cop, but I don't know that. So we're at 98 total so far, but let's compare just these. 53 to 983 citizens who were murdered by police in 2018. 53. Okay. 2019. Gunfire, 51. Inadvertent, 2. So that's 53. 53 compared to 999 citizens who were shot and killed by police in 2019. 53, 999. Okay, let's continue. 2020, gunfire, 46. Gunfire inadvertent, 5. So that's 51. Compared to 1,020 in 2020. So again, 51, 1,020. Are we seeing a pattern here yet? That maybe the police aren't really at as much risk as we say they are, and oh my God, their life's constantly being threatened and their life's on the line. Maybe that's not true as much as we think it is, and citizens have a lot more to fear. Judging by the numbers, that's what I'm seeing. 2021. Gunfire, 63. Gunfire inadvertent, 3. That's another 66. Compared to 1,048 citizens who were killed by police in 2021. 66, 1,048. And the last year of 2022, gunfire, 61. Gunfire, 4. That's a total of 65. Compared to 1,097 citizens who were killed by police in 2022. 65, cops who were killed, I'm assuming by citizens because it just says gunfire. It doesn't really have more. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of statistics or articles or anything like that that show how many officers get killed by citizens. My guess is because it doesn't actually happen that often. Again, this is 65 compared to 1,097. Okay. So I don't remember what the first number was that I gave y'all, but I do remember that it was over 6,000 for sure. So, want to know how many cops were killed in that same amount of time? It was over 6,000 citizens, remind you, right? 6,000 citizens plus. It was way more than 6,000, but I remember the 6,000. I don't remember I should have screenshotted or something when I was doing my calculations, but my bad. But over 6,000 citizens were killed in the exact same time frame from 2017 to 2022. 333 police officers were killed by citizens in that same amount of time. Think about that. For as much scaremongering as you hear about people who are like, yo, the police is a super dangerous job, and my uncle's a cop and he knows a guy who got killed and all of this type of stuff, right? I'm sure that's true. Like, it happens sometimes. It clearly happened 333 times in the last 6 years. So it happens for sure. What I'm saying is, look at how much one happens versus the other. That's the takeaway that you should have. So it's not that. Now, they go on to discuss in that clip how defunding the police is a bad idea, and how once all the police started, basically hearing the backlash from people, and the whole defund the police, and the police are bad and all that kind of stuff, like when it really started ramping up again, that's when they, all of a sudden you were starting to see articles and stuff like that of police chiefs coming out, and they were like, oh, our guys are scared to do their job, and they're afraid that if they do anything that they're going to get complaints against them, and they're going to end up on the internet and all of this kind of stuff, right? And it's like, well, I'll take Detroit as an example, right? So in Detroit, for the most part, from my experience, and I hung out a lot in the city. I was in the city all the time. And I lived in the city for, some years, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not foreign to the city just because I lived in the suburbs too, you know what I mean? So let me get that very clear. Like, I definitely am an authority on what goes on in the city, for sure. And I don't mean an authority as far as like I run anything in the city, but I'm an authority as far as I'm tapped in and I know what's happening. So for the most part, from my experience, police weren't just messing with people just to do it. There was usually a reason that was tied to police making the block hot. Either there was a trap house on the block, somebody got shot on the block, somebody called the police over there because of a domestic violence issue, whatever the case is. It wasn't really a thing where police were just pulling up on dudes and just messing with them. And like, it wasn't 80s Harlem. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't really like that. So, but the other thing that I noticed is that the majority of Detroit police are from Detroit. So it's like, if you view a young person as your potential niece or nephew and you don't view them as the other, you're more likely to actually gain their respect, and they won't like have this vitriolic hatred of police. All of my negative experiences with police came from in the suburbs. I didn't really ever have any negative interactions with police in the city. In Farmington, in Novi, in Wixom, and different places like this, that's where I was having issues with police at. It wasn't ever in the city. And I was outside, as they say. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like I couldn't have got caught up in nothing. You know what I mean? But it wasn't like that. It wasn't like you could just be standing on your block and the cops are okay with that because they know that that doesn't necessarily indicate crime. Sometimes that's just where we hang out at. Sometimes that's just the meetup spot because it's like everybody's, going to the store and, oh, you coming back from the store. I was just going to go get breakfast, meet up on your front porch. We'll kick it. You know what I'm saying? And then some of the across the street neighbors come in, they see you, you know what I'm saying? And somebody else rolls up and they got a new car. So now everybody's on the block checking out the car and we listening to music. And now it's maybe 8, 9 people outside. That doesn't mean we're selling drugs. You know what I'm saying? And police in Detroit seem to know that. It's other places where it seems like they're just going out of their way to harass people. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing I will say from my experience and from the experience that, a lot of people I know went through. You had to like really actively be doing dirt, like in order to really be getting messed with by the police like that in the city. If you were outside the city, that was a totally different story. So, um, so yeah, man, I guess my point is, and all of that, there are ways that the police can interact with the citizens, can have change, can do all of these things, without having to go resort to violence every time. That's our issue. And then to the cops who don't say anything about the bad cops, you're just as big of a part of the problem. It's the same thing that Martin Luther King said back in the day when he said, um, well, I don't know if it was Martin Luther King, and I don't know the exact quote, so let me not, you know what I mean? But somebody back in the day in like the 60s during the civil rights era was basically like, somebody who doesn't speak out against racism is just as guilty as the racist. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're not actively doing anything to change it and you know it's wrong, you're culpable. You're an accomplice. That's what they say to us. You know what I'm saying? If one of my homies goes and shoots somebody and I know he did it and they know I know he did it and they're trying to get me to cooperate and I refuse to, they're going to hold me in contempt. And now I'm a possible accomplice. You see what I'm saying? So it's like they don't have to face those consequences. Very rarely do police get actually convicted and sentenced to jail when they kill somebody. It doesn't happen. So that's where you get the all police are X comments. That's where you get the I don't like police comments. And that's where that lack of respect for police comes from that Joe was talking about. He's saying we need to respect the profession more and these type of things wouldn't happen. But like I said, you have to earn respect. And the police haven't done that. The police aren't firefighters are very respected. I don't know anybody who hates firefighters. I don't know anybody who hates like the people who, the EMTs who show up on the ambulance. They may not like the fees that come with it, but we blame that more on the healthcare system than we do the actual ambulance workers and the people. We love them. Why is it only police that we have a problem with? I think it's because of all the stuff that I said in this video. So, that's just my thoughts on that. You know what I mean? Y'all let me know what you think in the comments. Again, look at the numbers before you respond. Don't respond with some emotional, oh, my dad's a cop and he knows a guy who got killed and one of his other friends got killed and it was 5 years apart. I don't want to hear that because I know people who got friends that are dying every day, literally, or every week. You know what I'm saying? So it's not the same. That's my main point, my main takeaway. I went a little bit longer than I anticipated today, but this was on my mind. This is on my heart. And once again, I'm a huge Joe Rogan fan, but I just chalk up his opinion of police and my opinion of police to being different experiences. I don't know if Joe Rogan's ever been pulled over on his way back from the movies for driving slightly under the speed limit, and then had 6 other cop cars pull up while you were less than a mile away from your house, mind you, and tear your car apart looking for a little bag of weed that wasn't even there. I don't think that's ever happened to Joe Rogan. I could be wrong. I'm making assumptions, and I'm willing to admit that. You know what I mean? But I don't think that's ever happened to Joe Rogan. And if it has, probably not that often. I don't know if Joe Rogan's ever been pulled over based simply on the fact that he was in the car with 3 other black dudes and him, and the cop thought that looked suspicious. I don't know if that's ever happened to Joe Rogan. I would doubt that it has. You know what I mean? So that's sort of that's the main issue that I'm finding with this particular line of thought. I don't think all individual police officers are evil. What I think they are is complicit in evil when they don't say nothing about the messed up stuff that their partners are doing. And that's why they all get labeled pigs. So, that being said, this is Shane G. This is Politics as Usual, right here on the Ethos Media Network. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe for all the latest content. We'll be back next week. Peace.